G'day, so today on Brupeg we're going to be building a hidden door-aid vent. This allows us to ventilate the lower accommodation areas of Brupeg. You do a quick review of a previous episode where we started building the bottom half of this. Today we're going to be building the top half, and then tomorrow we're going to be doing all of the insulation and the final install of the vent. So it allows us to keep the water out and the fresh air in. Next couple of days I'm focusing on getting these, what is basically going to become a vent. So below the floor here is the what used to be the freezer room and is going to be the downstairs accommodation. So what we've done is we've obviously cut a hole in the side of the boat, so this is the side of the cabin, and then this piece of steel gets welded back in to there, so there's like a 1-inch gap all the way around for air to come in and out, and then we create this type of arrangement here. So it's a bit like a door-aid box in that there'll be stainless flaps that overlap each other, so that the air has to do a bit of an S-bend to actually get through and into the vent, and the water, it's difficult for the water to do that. And then the air travels down this column, so there'll be a panel that goes across here, travels all the way down this column, and then through this hole that we've cut out. So what the plan is, so these are bits of stainless, we're going to be welding them in flush like that all the way around, so up this edge, etc. And then there'll be a piece of like alloy or stainless or something like that that basically gets sealed up onto this here. My 50mm measuring stick just fell from the top of the boat to the absolute bottom of the boat. Yeah, so that happened. Jesus! My spare measuring stick. Alright, back in a minute. So this is a fairly tight space. It was a bit hard to get a welder up, so rather than putting in a piece of stainless, we decided to bond in a piece of 6mm aluminium. We also filled up any air gaps between welds on the flange on the front face. This has been done for a couple of months now, and it's time to get stuck into the door-aid vent. So a door-aid box is really simple. Like, they normally sit on the deck of a boat, and they literally get boxed like that. So they have like the sort of air scoop thing here. The air comes in that direction there, and down into this area here, and then you have a couple of vertical pieces of wood like that, and then you've got a hole through into your cabin, so the air has to physically do this direction like this in order for it to come all the way through into your cabin. And then water also comes into here, so you have a little hole in the bottom corners at the back of this here. You can also have, I think they also have another one here on some of them. But basically what this means is water does come in and it hits these sort of walls, and it stops it makes it quite difficult for the water to keep passing these obstacles, and then the water just drains out the bottom here.
Oh yeah.
2, 1.
It's quite square.
Yeah, so this is the top one.
Right.
And then this is the bottom one that fits up under it like that.
Okay.
Yep.
Nice. And you're using this flat bit here?
Yeah.
Our old sink.
So I'm wondering if I'm going to use this edge here because it's got a nice bend in it along the edge here.
So we're just talking about the door-aid box, how we're going to build it, and Damien's brought up a really good point, and that is that when a boat like this goes to sea and it's in rough waters, it would never have that vent open for water to come in if you've got really heavy seas. Why don't I just bolt a piece of aluminium to the outside when it's rough? But if it's like 95% watertight,
a side impact is, will leak a little bit through it or whatever it may be, but the door aids are then going to just let out that tiny bit of water that's left in. So it leads us to having to do just really simple door aids. So that's what we'll do. We'll fold up a set of simple ones. So we're gonna actually essentially sicker this in. It sounds dodgy, but it's not. So we're gonna basically sicker this in so that it's held in nice and tight. It's really good quality stuff that we're going to use.
It's thin stainless, so it's 1 mil thin stainless. So it's really light, so the sickle will hold it fine.
Yeah.
And then we'll test how well it does with side impacts with water.
Yeah. And then this face here, we're just going to run a 3 mil bead of sicker all the way around it, and then just press the aluminium straight onto it, and that's going to be enough for now.
Whoa! It's a big spider. Whoa!
Where did it go?
I think it's disappeared. Wow, that was a big spider.
Did you see where it went?
Under here. Be careful it's not coming up on it. No. Oh, there it is. Don't touch it.
Oh, no, it's a big one.
Don't touch it.
I think it's a huntsman.
Yes. Oh, is it? I don't think it is. It's right under your face.
Can you get the camera?
Oh. I don't think that is a huntsman. They're
No,
brown.
it's not a huntsman. It's something else.
Just be careful it doesn't bite you.
Hi. Come around this side. Oh, he's back around that side.
It really doesn't like us, does it? We should leave it alone. Just don't want to. Oh, it's gorgeous. Look at it. No, I'm not so scared because it stopped moving.
Oh, you can see his eyes.
What a cutie.
Little wee red ones.
Should we leave it alone?
Right. Boat building in Australia. If it's not spiders, it's like 150,000 bullfrogs.
Yeah. That's true.
So it's this top edge that you want to make sure is spot on, and it's basically along the line that I drew, which it is. So as I bend this, again, this is not ideal. I'd love to have a sheet metal bender when I did this, but I don't have one, so you do what you do with the tools you have. What do you think about this? I don't know if it's going to work, let's just see. Straightening out the one I don't want to bend. So I came back and Jess had already solved the problem. She's basically clamped using the bench and using a piece of steel, she's clamped it to the edge of the bench, and now you can just basically get a hammer and free hit that over. Again, it's not going to be perfect because you're hitting it with a hammer versus like bending it in a sheet metal press, but it basically solves the problem that we're having, given that this is like an internal piece of steel that just has to be joined nice and tight with a sealant. It's going to work perfect for what we need.
So I'm thinking, instead of trying to whack the shit out of it, I'm thinking of just tapping gently down the run and just letting it move just each time, just a little bit. I'm just trying to get a nicer curve rather than smashing it up.
Yeah, cool. Go for it.
How can I call this place my own? I'm sleeping into separate. I dream about it when I sleep. That day that no one died. I keep my eyes on the road.
these are the gadgets that we put together for our door aid box.
This was really entertaining, this thing that is about to happen.
It's a wee bit hard to sort of show you, but basically this one fits up there like that, and then this one here kind of interlocks with it and goes like this. They fit like that.
Which is great.
Nice and neat and lovely, and you can see that the air comes in through the bottom here, down here, goes up through that slot, and we were going to basically glue some sides onto each of these to. So they were going to kind of sit like that, roughly, if you can imagine that, and there's going to be sides on each one. But this is a piece of old sink, as you saw. There's a weld down the centre, or down the crease here, that's starting to split apart, and I'm folding it. It's really thin stainless. And I'm folding it with a hammer, and the more I basically engineer this, the more it just turns into a box of worms. So we're calling it the box of worms, and we decided we don't want a box of worms in the wall. Yeah. So Dane's come up with this solution, which is really cool. Yeah. So it sounds dramatic, but it's actually really simple and not that dramatic. So we're gonna cut the whole side of the boat out. And I'm going to rebuild it in stainless. The reason I'm going to do that, so I'll be completely replacing all of this. Every part of it will become stainless, and the reason I'm going to do that is because then I can build the door aid box outside on the bench. I can completely weld, like fully seam weld the whole thing, so there's just no chance that it can leak. And then I'm just going to basically weld in the square that I cut out. I'm just going to like match my stainless up to that, put it back in, and then run a weld all the way around it. So it's, in a way, it's kind of an elegant way to fix what could have been a real difficult part of the boat, I suppose, isn't it? Yeah, it is. It's a really difficult part because it's such a wet, damp, moist area of the because it's a vent, so it's not only rain coming in and moisture coming in from outside, but people's breathing, and people will be sleeping down there, so it's difficult. So it has to be right. We're just trying to find a solution that was easy and quick, but I think this is a better one, definitely. Yeah, so we've got two of these. We've got one on the other side as well, so once you practice on this one, the other one will be faster. So replace the side of the cabin with stainless. Alright, so we marked out pretty well. These two panels here, we're going to slice it down the centre. These two panels here are going to be the panels that we weld into the wall, and these four panels here are each going to form the door aid. So we're creating two complete vents, one for the left of the boat, one for the right of the boat, and then we've got a little bit of offcut at the top here that we're going to use to weld in some panels. So alright, so what we're left with is 3 bits of stainless, and it's these 3 things that are going to become the vent. So this is the main wall panel that's going to be basically have this shape cut out of the wall and then replaced with stainless, and then these here are the 2 things that sort of form the overlapping door aid vent. So as you know, I don't have a sheet metal bender, but when working with steel as thick as this is 3mm, so it's kind of the thin end of what I normally work with. But when working with steel sort of 3mm and above, you don't need a bender. You can put a slot 90% of the way through with your grinder, fold it, and then run a weld down there, and it's a backyard way of creating a nice even bend. If I had a folder, it would be easy, fast, and beautiful. We're about to lose the light, but I just wanted to show you how we do this. So this is the bottom plate that I'm building, and I've cut 2 slots. So these are about, I don't know, halfway through this steel. So if you start looking at that, you can kind of see there's a wee bit of a curve happening as the heat has basically bent it. However, I'm going to bend it the other way around. Alright, so you set this up on the edge of your bench, and you throw your clamps. I'm just clamping down a piece of 16mm steel, but like anything that's sturdy will work here. You could probably even use a big old piece of hardwood or something like that if you really had to. Steel, I would suggest, is probably always best because it's stiff. It's not going to give. Right. So, throw my gloves on so I don't chop my hands up. So basically we've got, under here is going to stay perfectly flat, and then I'm just going to press this down, and that's going to bend it perfectly along that cut that I've just made. So I want a 45-degree angle, close enough to 45 basically. So that's, trying to line it with that, fraction more. Okay, so that's 45. Right, now the next one. So I've got 2 bends on this. Now this one's going to be a wee bit more tricky because this here is going to take the brunt of it. I need it to be a 90-degree bend overall. Righto, that'll do. That is the bulk of our door aid vent bent up. So the way they sit in the wall, this one here basically sits in this orientation here. This one here sits just in front of it, like that, and so the air will come in and hit this plate here, work its way down, and then work its way back up, and sort of go around the top of here and back down into the freezer room. So what I've got to do now is make some sides and start welding them all up and capping them.
We are stoic men, you know, I'm fighting 95. Set in the picture waves, a picture for the queens and wines. Deep in the earth again, we go, and land's how to hide. Down in the sun again, we toil until the day we die. Hi dilly ho, hi dilly hey. Here we are again, me boys, and down Hades way. Hi dilly ho, hi dilly hey. Here we are again, me boys, and down Hades way. Sports roll away from Martin Stein and blood. Like Kelly's flower beating brow, we march a horsing up. I'm from the dark to make a name, a forge Stevie mate. I'm from the rock side of Mark to the light of day. Hi dilly ho, hi dilly hey. Here we are again, me boys, and down Hades way. Hi dilly ho, hi dilly hey. Here we are again, me boys, and down Hades.
Right. So this is one of the slots that I cut, or 2 of the slots that I cut earlier and then bent it round. I'm going to basically fill these up with weld now.
Scout parts are off the heart for its father night. Lost life with family for hours in between. The draped dirt snow work years along the same. Hi diddly ho, hi diddly.
So I'll go and grind all that up and flapper it up and make it all lovely and pretty later. Right, I'm going to buzz a weld up the inside so that it's double continuous. Virtually 0 chance of it leaking then. And also, yeah, just looks better. This is the bit that sits like that, and this is the outside of the boat. This welds onto the outside. Yeah. Here's a piece that I finished earlier. That sits like that, and that. Well, each of them will sit inside there, and they weld together. Slight adjustment issues.
Wow.
So that I can keep a pretty uniform gap, I'm just going to throw a couple of blocks of steel in. Distance is not really that important. So what we're going to do is get them basically parallel. I don't want like one plate sitting, you know, weird angles or whatever it may be that way either. So I'm just mucking around to get them pretty much bang on. It's not critical, they don't have to be like absolutely perfect, but I want them to be close enough that by the eye you can't even see that anything's out or anything like that. So within like half a mil, I'm happy with that.
Dodge men, you know I'm fighting 85. Set in the picture range that picks the fourth Queensland lines. Then in the earth again we go, Aladdin's how to hide. Then in the soil again we toil until the day we die. Hi diddly ho, hi diddly hey. Here we are again, me boys, and down Hades way. Hi diddly ho, hi diddly hey. Here we are again, me boys, and down Hades way.
This is the outside, so if we get a big wave smash into the side of this, this is what the wave hits. So it basically it's like an arresting plate. It basically stops the water from being able to go, you know, in and out and do whatever it's going to do. It basically stops it and directs it down. So then all of the air goes through this one little slot down the bottom here, and then it goes up the channel that's created between this panel and the back panel, and then the air comes out that slot there and then heads back down into the lower part of the boat. So pretty straightforward, really simple design. Now, I'll go through and clean it all up. We've got a lot of like flappering and stuff to clean up and make it look lovely and pretty. Not that you ever see any of that, but I'm just going to do it anyway. And then that piece of stainless, this piece just here, that's actually going to become the side of the boat and the front face of this. So I'm going to weld it on here, cut out the central part and do all of the sort of vent and louvering and all that sort of stuff onto that piece of stainless. So yeah, we're getting there. Is create a little step. So we need to go down an inch. We'll go that, we'll cut it to size later. We'll go that way. It's all very precise measurements. Alright, so this is basically the outside face of the door aid. This bit here is our piece that will sit on the outside of the boat, so that's our cutout, and this bit here is going to be sitting in the center. Now to get the height, I made this little gadget here. It's just a piece of 50x3 folded up. I'm going to just sit that in the middle there. I'm going to sit it that way, not that way, because that way water can't stick around, it's just going to run straight down past it. So I'll weld that in, drill 2 holes in this, weld that in like that, and then you have a hidden basically mount. Really hard to actually see. The whole thing sits flush, and yeah, I can adjust that, get it absolutely spot on, then just fill the holes up with weld, and we've got a beautiful finish. So so this is the bottom of our vent. A couple of drain holes just to deal with the water that sits in that part of the vent. When you put that face on like that, those holes end up pretty much bang on in the bottom corners of our vent, so that should work fine for a drain. So let's start tacking this together. Righto, so I've got a buzzer weld across the top. It has a slight warp that way, so I'm trying to put quite a bit of weight on top here to basically press it down so that when I get more heat into it, it's not going to make it worse. I've clamped this to the bench, hoping the bench is going to suck out heat out of the vent, but yeah, we'll see if it works. Either way, I'm going to have to just roll with it. It's not bad enough that it's going to cause a drama, so we'll press on. Alright, so we've basically welded all the way around, so theoretically it's a sealed box at the moment. We've got a lot of grinding and cleaning up to do, so what I want to do is, you can see these corners are a bit sort of manky and whatever. We're going to trim those off nice now with a grinder, go around, grind all of these welds down, flap them down smooth so they're all pretty, get rid of any slag, and then round off these corners here on all of the edges so that we can start welding in a nice curved corner when we get to that stage of welding up top. So it's taken a huge amount of water in, nothing coming out. So that's our vent all blasted, ready to go so that we can install it in the side of the cabin.
Whoa, that's pretty amazing.
That is amazing.
Wow, good choice of placement.
Okay, the boat's square.
Whoa.
So I've got to basically figure out where to draw the line. So I've got to weld this in like that. So I need to cut a square out the same shape as this. Alright, so we've made the tent of doom behind us. So this basically just encapsulates any grinding sparks and things like that. We're pretty close to our neighbours. They got white boats, so we make sure that there's just no chance of anything getting out, you know, out of the where we're working and getting onto those boats and so on. So what we're going to do now is cut the square out. We've marked it all out. We're going to cut that out, fit the vent into the hole, and then we're just going to run the weld around that, and it should be a pretty straightforward, easy job from here. So there she is, welded in with some of the ugliest welds in Australia. But yeah, they'll all flap her up. It was basically welding in a wind tunnel while it was dark with no room and being pushed around by a tarpaulin. So yeah, I'm not really that stressed that they look a bit ugly. I'll clean them up with a grinder. Hello.
What are you doing?
I was just looking at this. When I welded it, I taped all of this up so that I wouldn't get crackle through the boat, but splatter came through the top weld because there was a bit of a gap at the top, so splatter came all through and it's gone all down this back panel.
Are you alright?
No.
The Dame hates anything like this, but I can see like it's a lot of work to
It's a huge amount of work
clean that
to
up,
fix it.
and you don't really need to, eh?
It's inside a wall, you'll never really see this again.
Can you live with it though?
No, but I think I'll have to.
Alright, decision made then.
Yeah,
Yeah, so it's in. That's awesome, eh?
I'll leave it.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
So I'm basically stacking up in here and all around in this area here with as much insulation as I can, because I'm not going to be able to easily get into this later on. So for ice, we're trying to put as much of this 60mm thick polystyrene as possible. So along the deck where there's going to be a lot of snow and ice and so on sitting potentially, I'm going to try and put 3 layers of this stuff so it's ludicrously thick, and the boat will be really well insulated. And then against the hull, I'm trying to do a minimum of 1 layer, but I'm trying to, if I can, I'd like to do 2 layers wherever possible. So just kind of my general rule of thumb is to just pack in as much as I possibly can get in there. This is one that's basically identical but has no insulation whatsoever. So if I show you up the top there, you can sort of see there's like just a big cavity of empty space. Move along to this one and it's completely encapsulated with polystyrene all the way. So this is our foil back paper that we put on the wall. That's 10mm thick foil back paper. Down here we got more corrugated tin foil, but behind that we also have 120mm of polystyrene between the hull and this here, sealed up like nice and tight. And then up here, it's a wee bit hard to see, but on the just below the deck we've got 180mm of polystyrene. So there we have it, a hidden door aid vent. So we've taped the aluminium panel on while the Sika sets. This thing is built entirely out of stainless aluminium insulation and swear words. Now we just got to go and clean up.